And we're back, starting a new adventure on a new foundation. As you're watching now, I'm just sort of on the way to the job site. It's another house foundation that we're going for. It was a good-sized house foundation. I forget the number of yards or this particular house foundation ended up taking, but it was a decent number of yards. I think it was at least 5 or 6 trucks worth of concrete, so it was at least over 55 yards or so, 5 yards. I mean, 11 yards per truck. So I remember it was at least 5 or 6 trucks, so we were probably somewhere between 55 and 60, somewhere in that range. Anyway, pulling up now, gotta get set up, and let's get started. There wasn't anything super particular or particularly difficult about moving around this job site or anything. Everything could be easily accessed off the truck. The only thing that was peculiar about this foundation is it had a very big drop or stop in the wall, and that's where concrete has to flow up against basically a form board, go fill up the cavity from the bottom of the floorboard all the way up to a particular level in the wall, and then the final grade of the wall would be on top of that, and then there's also another top grade level, let's call it, somewhere lower. So it's like the wall kind of literally stops or whatever. You can see it here. There's a big giant concrete foundation wall panel next to the guy that's standing there, and he's sort of standing in the lower section. So in order to do that, I had to, in order to stop the concrete from flowing under the form board that's to what would be his left, our right, I had to make the concrete pretty stiff so it would stay in that spot, and then the concrete would be built up on top of it to the right there. Hopefully that makes sense to what I was doing. Now, I kind of made a mistake in my driving here. I actually had backed down a slope that was kind of muddy. And being that I was fully loaded, I believe, it would have been not probably the end of the world to pull me out with another truck, but it, would have delayed the process, let's say. So I should have actually backed up more parallel with the wall with my ass to my left, I believe, and I would have stayed sort of off of the slope. And I did actually spin my tires trying to crawl up the little slope there, but I hadn't locked in my rearmost axle yet, so I was just spinning my front axle and whatever axle was driven behind me. So I just locked in that rear axle, did a big toe push on my throttle, and the truck sort of found some grip and crawled its way back up to the hill. What you're looking at now is just me putting some stiff concrete where it was needed to block up some stops. Then right after that, I had to put the contractor had to put some water on my load to loosen it up a little bit to get it more flowing, and then we put some more concrete on top of that to top this little section, or begin to top that little section of wall out to get some good stuff on there. So now what I'm having is just the simple process of moving to the other side of the wall. Since my load was still stiff-ish, these stops in this part of the wall, as you can see how it steps down in multiple spots. They're much smaller, so it doesn't take as much friction or holding power per se with concrete to hold everything back. That's what we're pushing down the top of it. So I would, he had this particular contractor had to come over here and then also fill up these, and then it was time to let it up and let it out into a corner right after. Okay. Now, what you would have just heard, or probably just barely made out, was the contractor yelling something. He was saying something along the lines of, like, okay, stop, or alright, and he was just giving me a heads up that he wants me to stop the drums so the flow of concrete stops coming down the chute. Now, the problem is if you as a driver wait until that moment, there's usually way more concrete coming down the chute than the contractor realizes and will overfill something. So at that point, or over time, you get a sense for when you need to stop your drums so you don't do. So at that point, I would have already got a sense that the concrete level in the forms was coming up to a point where I need to think about stopping, and probably would have stopped the drum. And at that point, it would have been just enough continuing to trickle when he said stop for it to work out properly. Here you can get a view of what a stop or a drop is. Depending what part of the country you're in, you might call it something different. Up in this area where I'm from, that is called a drop or a stop, but you can see where the concrete is at a higher grade goes down, and then the grade of the concrete continues along the wall. They're just referred to as stops and drops, and then off to the distance, sort of to the top of the screen, you can see the very massive drop that was over there. See the guy was sort of running a trowel across the top of the concrete because I believe there was a walkout basement thing there. It may have been a under the house garage door going on there. I'm not 100% positive, but just looking at it now, that kind of looks like what they were doing there. Because there's going to be 2 garage doors where you drive and go up to the garage doors and you'd park under the house basically. And then it was time to wet it up pretty good, let the rest of it out into the corner, and it would have just flowed to wherever it needed to flow, down, both sides of the wall. And then right behind me, the next truck pulled up and continued in that same spot, and, that was that. So then on this particular day, I had to make a return trip, so I had to make it back to the plant, and then come all the way back out to the same wall, to be the last truck. It was a little bit of a drive, actually. I think it was 40 or 45 minutes worth of driving one way. So there's actually a little bit of time in between I think it was first or second load, and I ended up being last load, so there's actually quite a bit of time, all things considered, between this first set of clips and this next set of clips here.
What's going on?
Now for this last um, set of clips here, I am in fact, like I said, I am a return truck. I'm actually the last truck of this wall up, and the only thing that I had left to do was just air quotes top this section of wall here. What you're looking at is what's supposed to be the front of the house. So there's the very most exterior wall, which is actually going to be the exterior wall on the frontmost wall for a front porch, and then the wall that's to the inside of that is actually the exterior wall of what would be the basement, basically. And then there's the cavity in there that's going to just get backfilled with normal dirt, and it's going to be the front of the house is going to have a walkout porch in the front there. It's probably going to have some sort of concrete slab there. Maybe they'll do some sort of brickwork. I'm not really sure what this particular house was going to be, or was going to ultimately look like. But that's what you're looking at here. It's a good use of space if you wanted to go through and have your builder and therefore your foundation guy actually open that space up under the porch. It's possible to do, and it allows you a good chunk of extra storage space in your basement that you wouldn't normally be able to have. So you could even use it as maybe your mechanical room. Maybe you could put your washer and dryer in there, depending on where your washer and dryer have to be, or just normal storage, so you can keep your basement just neater and cleaner and hide all your junk. What's basically under your front porch. But normally it would just get filled in.
Yeah.
But otherwise, all I'm doing here is topping the last bit of wall here with this particular foundation guy. If you've watched any of the other videos, the process is the same. I just follow him down the wall, fill up the wall, maybe a little bit higher than grade down the wall, and then behind me he'll just kind of consolidate it to pretty much the grade with the shovel. We just work down the wall as we can. I have the truck pretty much perfectly perpendicular to the wall, so if I had to, for some reason, I could continue to drive just about all the way into the hole to reach something really far. I didn't have to do that at this wall, but if you had to, that's how you would do it. Just pull it perfectly perpendicular, because you have all the weight of the truck behind you to sort of holding it back. But that's all you're watching here, is just topping the front porch and the interior wall or exterior of the basement, basically. Right at the end there, after everything was all said and done, he requested that I leave him some of the leftovers. I dropped him, I don't know, a few wheelbarrows worth of concrete on the ground right there. He'll come over and scoop some of that up if he runs into a hole that he's going to fill. Maybe there's a low spot in his grade that he might want to fill in with it. You know, it's smart on his part to have that there in case he needs it. But that's that. I just got to get the truck all washed out. And I got to make it all the way back to our plant. And get loaded and head out on another one.